Hi, everybody. Dan Illman, Ashley Mailloux, taking a look at a quality edition of the Grade 1 Del Mar Oaks at where else? Del Mar on Saturday. 3-year-old fillies take center stage. Let's take a look at this field. We are going on the turf at 1.125 miles. The number 5 Anisette Ashley has been so impressive in both starts in North America. She's now going to try to stretch her ability from a mile to 1.125 miles.
Well, we think her running style, she should have no problems with the additional eighth of mile. And just looking at her two races, the one at Santa Anita and Del Mar, since coming to the States, she does no favors for herself, I should say, early on, and she usually rallies from the back of the pack. And just to see the late turn of foot that she has, it's very impressive for a 3-year-old filly.
And as we throw up the Timeform US pace projector, I think there's a chance that this pace could heat up for her just a little bit. A horse like the number 7 Big Pond is stretching out and moving from dirt to turf. We know the number 4 Ruby Nell likes to be forwardly placed. So the 5 Anisette, who has the LP flag designating that she has the fastest late pace rating from Timeform US, might get a good setup.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with this pace projection through and through. And I even think, seeing kind of the fourth horse in here, Absolutely Zero, who's a big price in here at 50 to 1 on the morning line. She might even kind of make things a little bit sizzle early on in terms of the pace. So I do think the pace should be pretty good in here for the closers.
I've been waiting for the number 1 and Tell Me No Lies to come up with that big race as a 3-year-old. She was a Grade 1 winner at 2, albeit against a sort of slow crop of 2-year-old fillies on the main track in Southern California, but it just doesn't seem like she's gotten much better. They tried turf last time out. She ran okay, but it wasn't that breakthrough performance I was looking for. Maybe she can save some valuable ground after breaking from the hedge.
I think the rail does help her. And I actually thought, all in all, with her performance last time out, she ran pretty good. She didn't take a lot of love on the tote board just because it was her first time on the turf. And she missed by less than 4 lengths. She rounded out the try. And I did think, she was making up a little bit of ground in the stretch. Not a ton, nothing like the winner, who we'll talk about a little bit later. But all in all, for a first time on the turf performance, I think it's better than I at least expected from her.
It's a very interesting spot for the number 2 Window Shopping, who's one of the better 3-year-old fillies on the dirt in Southern California by virtue of her victory in the Grade 2 Summertime Oaks last time out. And she showed off a very strong late kick and a lot of professionalism in behind horses, bulls her way in between, and is getting away from this field at the end. Now, she's only raced once previously on turf. I'm just going to trust Richard Mandella. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, I think I would trust him too. And just looking at this performance, I thought it was really good. It looked like it took her a little bit to get going when she had to split horses, and she's kind of just more of a lumbering type and a grinder, and she gets it done. And I even think that was 1.116 miles, mile and an eighth on any surface. I think she should really be really strong at. And I would also kind of add to the Richard Mandella, they debuted her on the turfs. They must have thought she had the ability. She was far back early on in that race and did make up some late ground. She did finish 6th, but she only missed by 4.5 lengths. And it's been a productive race. Broadway Girls, we know what she's been able to do in Southern California. So I think it's interesting to see them say, hey, we have those good performances on the dirt, a really nice win. Let's go back to the grass.
A horse that made her turf debut last time out is the number 3 Infinite Diamond. We're going to take a look at that effort right now against a pretty salty field of older second level allowance types. Infinite Diamond, as you see, is in behind horses here turning into the stretch, and she's crying out for somewhere to run, and she really doesn't get fully clear until it's too late. So this performance perhaps a little bit better than it looks on paper for a filly that's done some good work on dirt.
I agree. I think this is the importance of watching replays, and just, you can look at the run line here and maybe say, hey, maybe I should take a look at the replay, and just looking at her needing that room. And then it kind of slows down her momentum just enough that she really doesn't hit her best strides until maybe 5 or 6 strides before the wire. That was at the 1.125 miles distance. Patrick Biancone giving another shot on the turf, I do think is a positive sign. And this is still a tough group that she's going to face. But as you've already mentioned, those were older fillies and mares last out.
The 4 is Ruby Nell, and she's just become a whole new filly on the turf. She was okay on dirt, but she loves the lawn. She's won both of her starts, including this race, a first-level allowance last time out, where she went right to the front, got a really well-rated ride by Edwin Maldonado, and streaks on home.
She's very, very quick in this race, and it was her first, race in just over 2 months, and just to see her kind of take command early and just stay in front throughout. It's not like the lead was really shrinking for her. I think that's a good sign. And from a pace perspective, I think she's interesting. And just kind of looking at her and now her stablemate window shopping, they debuted her on the turf. They switched her the dirt. They switched her back to the turf. And as you said, the success they found, 2 wins in a row now.
Anisette is up next, and she gave a wow performance last time out in the San Clemente. Only her second start in North America for trainer Leonard Powell. She just creeped up to the leaders from in behind horses on the second turn, and once she eased into the stretch, it is all over.
And she certainly lost some ground in this race, right? Just knowing that she had to go wide into that turn. But once she kicks on here, the race is really on for the minors at this point. Just her late turn of foot is very impressive. And I think, yes, she has to stretch out. She's been really good at the flat mile. But with a horse like that, the added distance would really just help her.
The 6 Impact Warrior is a horse that I'm really expecting some improvement from in her second lifetime start in North America for trainer Phil D'Amato. Let's watch her North American debut against older horses in a first level allowance. She's going to tip off the cover of the winner into the stretch, and she'll come with an okay run considering it's her first start in the States. But this horse on the lead is just a battle-tested older performer who's a little bit better than Impact Warrior, who showed no quit in the final 16th.
And this is just, again, a 3-year-old filly that was tackling older, a similar story that we see. And I like her turn of foot. I really think she's got a really nice turf stride to her and a big stride for a filly. And with Phil D'Amato, he does well with these horses when they come over. But just the meet he's having with his turf runners and now this one having that one start here, I think we should see a progression forward. I think she's a little sneaky in here. I know she's only 4-1 on the morning line, but she's still a little bit of a wild card, only having that one start in the U.S. under her belt.
Number 7, Big Pond's going to be tested, not only for class as she steps out of the restricted ranks for the first time, not only for distance as she tries a route of ground for the first time, but also surface as she tries turf for the first time. But you know something? She deserves an opportunity after 2 likable performances on the main track, and she has bred both sides for turf.
And sometimes when you see horses go from 3/4 to 7/8, they kind of shorten up in those final, even the final 16th or final 8th. And I thought she really held her own on the stretch out, but now it's going 6-7 to a mile and an eighth and a surface switch. It may be a lot to ask of her, but the barn does pretty well when transferring horses onto the turf. And there has to be a reason that Tim Yakteen wants to try this spot. And it's obviously also going to be her first, try at stakes level, and it's a grade 1.
The 8 is Absolute Zero. This is a horse trying turf for the first time for trainer Doug O'Neill. She was an early and precocious 2-year-old. She beat boys in a stakes race in her second lifetime start. Now, her subsequent 3 tries have not been great. Maybe the surface switch is just trying to wake her up a little bit. She did work on the turf last time out.
She did, and the work was it was pretty good. It was 4th fastest for 23 workers. And you look at her pedigree. I think Doug O'Neill knows what he's working with based on that pedigree a little bit, being a Nyquist out of a Square Eddie mare. My concern is by far her best races were 4.5 and 5, and she's been pressing the pace in her last several, just a couple lengths off of it, and has really made no impact in deep stretch whatsoever, and she's backed out of those races. So maybe they're thinking the surface change can fix that, but I think looking at others' resumes, it's tough to make a strong case for her.
Over the years, we've seen East Coast-based turf horses ship over to Southern California and make hay, and perhaps the latest example will be the number 9, Be Your Best, who goes out for an underrated trainer, and Horatio DePaz has kept very good company on the East Coast. I think she had an excuse in the Wonder Again. She ran great. She also got wired by a horse that got the jump on her turning for home, and last time out, that Belmont Oaks was a salty race, and she was a lot closer to the pace than usual, going 1.25 miles. So I like her cutting back, and I like her perhaps finding a situation where others will do the dirty work up front.
Yeah, she is intriguing. You point out the cutback. I think that's kind of step 1, and you already pointed out she was really close to the pace last time out. I know they didn't go incredibly fast, but on the stretch out and distance, that's kind of changing a filly's running style. That can work against them. And I'm going to draw a line through that race. I thought she raced really well off that bit of a freshening in the grade 2 and just missed by a little bit. And you can see her connections have always been high on her. They're not really willing to take her out of these graded stake spots at the grade 1 and 2 level. So the ability must be there. And she's been able to shine pretty nicely in a couple grade 2s.
It might be too early to give up on the number 10 Paris Secret off just one bad running line, a race where she had some traffic trouble and perhaps some excuses. Her prior form for D'Amato was pretty good. She showed off a strong kick to win the Grade 3 Providencia at this distance in only her third lifetime start. Tough outside post position, must avoid a wide trip. She needs things to go her way, but she does have some quality.
She does have some quality, and she does have that one you mentioned in the grade 3 back in April. It wasn't a huge field, though, and the field overall, it wasn't like it was spread out. I think last time out, the trip didn't work for her, right? It was going a mile. She was shuffled back pretty early on in the race, excuse me, and just made no impact. So I'm curious to see her. She does get, as you mentioned, the outside post, a pretty big field here, a salty group. But when you look at that 82 buyer that she's thrown in the past, that would put her in the mix against this group.
It's a really good edition of the Del Mar Oaks on Saturday. Let's take a look at our top picks, and we're just going to go with the horse that they're all going to have to beat, and that's Anisette. And from what we've seen from her in her 2 lifetime starts in North America, if she shows up with that strong stretch kick, they may all be in trouble once again.
I completely agree. I just think she's been so sensational in what we've seen in those 2 stateside efforts, and to see some of the horses that she's beaten, some of them, even in her first race, she beat older horses that the second place finisher was the horse that Impact Warrior couldn't really beat last time out. So I just think with what she's shown and the distance, I think this is the perfect spot for her.
5621 for Ashley, 5643 for me. I think Impact Warrior can make a little bit of an impact, but she's going to have them nailed on tight if she's going to beat Anisette in the Del Mar Oaks. Good luck.